one. Two for one. 3 opponents down. Double down. 3 opponents down. Together as one. I love it.
Ladies and gents, my name is Xander, aka Diaslayers, and in this video, we're going to discuss and review the oh-so sleek and quite intriguing and yet very interesting Traveler's Judgment, and find out as to whether or not this thing is truly the most consistent sidearm in the entire game. If you're scratching your head and wondering how exactly we're going to do this, well my friends, we're going to look at the weapon's base stats, its TTK stats, and far more importantly than those two things is how specifically these perks function, in particular tap the trigger, firmly planted, and rapid hit, and find out as to which combination of perks is truly going to make this thing godly in PvP. Before we find out as to whether or not this thing is all it's cracked up to be, or rather it's just full of fluff cabbage trash shenanigans, we all have to understand how to get our hands on this intriguing and yet consistent monster. The very first thing that you gotta do is rank up the Nessus obelisk, and you do so by turning in a fractal line. And I think that it's at rank 7 that you can finally unlock these bounties, more specifically time lost weapon bounties, and that's when you can then get this Traveler's Judgment 5 bounty and complete it over and over again. Secondly, you can also then get more of these things to drop by completing Sundial runs, if you happen to have the Nessus obelisk linked to the Sundial. After those two things, it's just simply up to RNG to see if you can get that god roll, but now all you gotta do is just simply sit back, relax, grab a Snickers if you're hungry, hit the notification button, and let's jump right into the video. It's at this point in time that I would normally like to go over the weapon's time to kill stats, but before I can even begin to get into that, what you have to understand is to why I believe that this particular role, which is the one that you've been seeing throughout this entire game footage so far, and what you will continue to see, is my particular god roll, and you guys can see that right there on screen. It's got tap the trigger, rapid hit, ricochet rounds, control SAS, is an adaptive frame weapon, has a real masterwork, and a counterbalance mod. I got no doubt in my mind that there's a couple guardians out there who are thinking, man, rapid hit might want to be replaced with something like say firmly planted, and that my friends, I say is a very solid argument, and we're going to get into both those perks later on in the video. But for right now, what I really want to cover is why rapid hit, ricochet rounds, and control SAS is such a marvelous combination of perks to have. With rapid hit and ricochet rounds and control SAS, all three of those perks combined are going to increase the weapon's base stability stats so much to the point that's already at 100 out of 100, and not just that, but when you happen to proc rapid hit, you're then going to increase the weapon's overall reload speed and stability even more so, making this thing very, very consistent. And when you happen to couple everything that I've just said with a counterbalance mod, you then have the weapon's recoil once again at 100 out of 100, making it yet again very, very consistent. But what makes this thing what I think is really the icing on the cake is one perk in particular, and that's tap the trigger. I believe that tap the trigger is a make or break perk for the entire weapon, and some of you will probably ask yourselves the question, Xander, how exactly is this the case? Analysis time, baby, and let me explain. Essentially what tap the trigger does is it gives the weapon a short period of increased stability and accuracy on initial trigger pull. To really find out as to what that did, what I wanted to do, break down the perk in a frame by frame analysis. And what I found out in the process of doing so is that tap the trigger lasts for approximately 15 to 16 frames. In other words, this is approximately a half second in real time, and this then means that you can still obtain the weapon's optimal time to kill in that amount of time. And that right there is fantastic because then it means to you that you can proc tap the trigger for not just one, but 2 bursts consecutively. Following this exact same logic, I then went one step further and found out as to how many frames it took to reproc tap the trigger again. And to be exact, this equates to 3 frames, which is then correlating to 0.1 seconds in real time. Taking this one step further, the Traveler's Judgment needs 4 frames to actually finish one burst into the next. And so this then means to you that you then have enough time to literally constantly proc tap the trigger every single burst. And this is why this perk makes this particular weapon such a consistent and accurate monster, and not just close, but in medium ranges as well. I think it's safe to say that with tap the trigger, rapid hit, ricochet rounds, and control SAS, and a counterbalance mod, this thing is just going to be laying crits for decades. And the reason why you want to be able to do this is because of the weapon's optimal time to kill. And all it needs is simply 6 crits, doing 33 points of damage each, to then down a guardian in 0.5 seconds. Yes, my friends, you heard me right, I said 0.5 seconds. And that right there is going to make enemy guardians a little bit salty. But if you happen to land body shots, well then we got a completely different story, as this thing's going to need 10 body shots, and then the weapon's body shot time to kill goes up astronomically to 1.1 seconds. You don't want that, I don't want that, nobody wants that, and that's why you want to have, tap the trigger, and potentially either rapid hit or firmly planted. And once again, we'll come back to this in just a couple of seconds, but for right now, what I want to do is I want to show everything that I've just said right there on screen. Please note two things. Number one, all these computations were done with a Guardian N9 Resilience or Tier 9 Resilience, aka 198 points of health. And not just this, but it was also done in a frame-by-frame analysis, much the same way that I found out all that information about Tap the Trigger. Secondly, I also want you to note that the average time to kill is still going to be at 0.8 seconds. So even if you don't happen to land all those crits, you're still going to have a fairly good average time to kill, because remember, a weapon like say the Spare Rations still has its optimal time to kill at 0.8 seconds, which is the exact same thing. Fun little fact is that this weapon right here, the Traveler's Judgment, is in the exact same archetype as something like say the Last Hope and the Last Dance, and all these weapons have the fastest time to kill out of any other sidearm in the entire game. But on the flip side of this though is that they had the longest body shot time to kill, so you had better land those crits, because if you don't, you're going to get completely eradicated, decimated, and obliterated in an instant by Exodia himself. Taking one teeny tiny step back, I want everyone to recall that I classified this thing as a laser beam, and this is only reinforced more so by the weapon's shot rhythm, which we can then see by the weapon's base stats. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, no matter which kind of stat that you're looking at here, you simply can't go wrong, as this thing has every single stat above 50, and two of them are at 100 out of 100, in particular the stability and the recoil direction. Furthermore, the weapon's aim assistance is at 75 out of 100, and also its overall range stat is at 50. And so coupling all these things together, this then means to you that this weapon's shot rhythm is going to be just that, landing nothing but crits all day long, and what's going to seem like for centuries, so much to the point that not even Father Time is going to be able to keep count. The key takeaway from this, my friends, is that the weapon's shot rhythm is dictated by simply stability, aim assistance, and recoil direction. And with two of those things being at 100 out of 100, boy, you simply aren't going to be missing any of those shots, period. And so what we then gotta look at next is the weapon's range, and more specifically, the weapon's optimal effective range. How we're gonna do this is by going to private matches this very second. As I take out my Darcy, I measure 15 meters. At 15 meters, the Traveler's Judgment is then doing 33 per crit, as we would expect. But going back just one more meter to 16 meters, the Traveler's Judgment then does 32 per crit, meaning that this particular Traveler's Judgment has an effective optimal range at 15 meters. However, you might happen to have different perks or range masterwork, and that's then going to give the weapon better effective range. But even so, this base effective range that you just saw is still a very good approximation as to what yours might be. Taking this one step further, many of you already know that range is not only going to be a dictator of simply just that damage fall off, but it's also then going to affect the weapon's bullet magnetism. And so we always have to test this right now, and we're going to do so by going to a private match measuring this at 10 meters and 50 meters respectively. With that Darcy, I measure 10 meters, and at this distance, the Traveler's Judgment has an amazing bullet magnetism on the right side of the head, but on the top side of the head, I can't quite shoot him within the health bar, but get extremely close to doing so. Going back to 15 meters, here is where we see a wonderful situation that should fill you with delight, just like you're taking a delicious bite of bubble cake. For those of you that don't know what that is, you gotta look it up. Anyways, moving on the right side of the head, I could land body shots far outside of what should be a typical hitbox. Inversely to this is the top side of the head, and here I was able to land crits constantly even within the health bar itself. First impressions dictate that one can miss by a significant margin and still land crits, almost like Thanos snapping Guardians out of existence, but if you really wanted to eradicate, decimate, and annihilate Guardians with all 5 Infinity Stones, then I suggest that you miss shots on the top side of the head. Why, you ask? Rather than explain, let me just show you this weapon's true recoil direction and bloom factors this very second. For the first two test cases that you are seeing right now, the weapon's recoil is minuscule, and not just between bursts, but between bullets, so much to the point that not even Ant-Man could fit between those shots. Doing this via hipfire just the same, the weapon's recoil is a little bit more noticeable, but not something that you gotta sweat about, so what does this mean for you? Regardless of what kind of perks that you have or don't have, the Traveler's Judgment is going to excel in close range and mid-range engagements, and it's also going to have a very good advantage on something like say hand cannons in those environments as well. When it comes to shotgun rushers, it's gonna be like poof, adios, bye-bye. They're gonna be obliterated, and not just that, but they're gonna be like little chickens running around with their heads chopped off, and it's gonna be a glorious sight. However, if you want to be able to melt guardians even more efficiently, then there is actually a couple of perk combinations that you should be looking for, and to see all the perks that I recommend for this weapon, you guys can see that right there on screen. In the first column, we got either quick.sas or control SAS. And as far as the second column goes, here we happen to have high caliber rounds, ricochet rounds, flare magwell, and light mag. Ensuing this is the third column with rapid hits, feeding frenzy, and firmly planted, and following this is the fourth column with surrounded, tap the trigger, and head seeker. In being 100% honest, surrounded and head seeker can be great perks for PvP, but if you're looking for that most consistent role possible, then tap the trigger is a pivotal perk to have, so much to the point that it can tip the tides of battle in your favor, making it a must-have perk. Similarly, feeding frenzy is an awesome perk just the same, but for the sake of consistency, you might either want to have rapid hit or firmly planted. Yet this begs the question, which of those two perks is better than the other? To ascertain that marvelous question to the best of my ability, I grinded literally over 100 Traveler's Judgments to get two almost identical rolls, and the only real difference here is that one happens to have rapid hit, or the other one happens to have firmly planted. Every other perk is precisely the same, including their counterbalance mods, making their recoil directions 100 out of 100, aka Gemini Twins. Understanding that, what you must comprehend next is how I'm testing each of those perks in private matches, and we can see those test cases right now. The very first thing that I did is I wanted to test each one of these two perks out while crouching, specifically while crouching at 5 meters and 10 meters respectively. Keep in mind that rapid hit is still going to proc while you're crouching, but firmly planted isn't, so I wanted to be crouching for all these test cases. At 5 meters, it's no surprise that both these two perks was able to down that guardian no problem piece of cake, as I was finding the weapon as fast as I possibly could in both these test cases as well as the ensuing test cases. And going back to 10 meters, here is where we happen to see some very drastic and very significant changes, and I happen to do this 3 separate times, all of which gave me 3 separate results. With my very first attempt, rapid hit did not, I repeat, did not kill that guardian at 10 meters, but on the other hand, firmly planted did kill at 10 meters. Doing that exact same test case one more time, my second attempt, rapid hit did happen to kill him at 10 meters. But when I literally did the exact same thing that I just did from the test case before, at once again 10 meters with firmly planted, that was not the case and it didn't kill him. Last but not least, I want to do this one more time, and with this third attempt, neither rapid hit nor firmly planted killed that guardian at 10 meters. And so when seeing all this stuff, what does this mean to you? In deciding whether to use either rapid hit or firmly planted, one has to decide what kind of playstyle that you have. And for me, I know that I happen to have an aggressive playstyle, and thus I'm going to strafe constantly. And with this, I'm also then going to be in the air. And so for those kinds of scenarios that I just mentioned, rapid hit is an absolute must-have perk, and that's because I'm never ever going to be crouching. If I'm not going to be crouching, I'm never going to proc firmly planted. And so with this then, I'm then going to be proccing rapid hits on a very regular basis, and that's then going to give me a very fast reload speed, while at the same time increasing my stability. Inversely to this though, is a very passive playstyle. And so if you happen to have a passive playstyle, then maybe you're watching a capture point, crouch around that corner, saying peekaboo, adios, bye-bye, and that guardian is then going to be eradicated simply because of firmly planted. Similarly, if you're trying to make yourself a hard target to hit, and you happen to slide on a very regular basis and then stay crouched after doing that slide, then maybe you want to once again have firmly planted. And so in having said that, I think that you guys get the main point that I'm trying to make here. If you have an aggressive playstyle, then rapid hit is the best way to go. But if you happen to have a passive playstyle, then firmly planted is the best way to go. And so you know your playstyle better than anybody else, so make sure that you're grinding for the role that's going to fit that playstyle the best. As far as the weapon's consistency factor goes, well, you really can't go wrong with either one of those two perks. And so by all means, let me know what you guys are grinding for down in the comment section below, and also let me know whether or not you think that this particular sidearm, the Traveler's Judgment, is the most consistent sidearm in the entire game. No matter where you guys fall on that spectrum, you always know that I'm going to respect your opinions, and that is something that I can guarantee. Lastly, be sure to watch the newest, check the latest, and share, comment, like on social media, because you are the greatest. That's pretty much all I've got for you as of right now, Diaslayers. As always, GG, TNT.